Have you ever had this feeling of wanting nothing in particular, nothing at all actually, except for the world out there to just leave you alone? Hi, this is Liz. I live a slow, simple life in the countryside. Today, I would like to chat with you about the wish to be left in peace by the world out there. About being tired of everything that's constantly going on around us. About the wish to close the door to our cozy little home behind us and shut it all out. Maybe you have experienced this feeling as well. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it started. What I do know is that this feeling has not always been there. It sure wasn't there during my happy childhood in the 90s. It wasn't there when I went to school or to university. It wasn't there when I traveled the world. Wasn't there when I worked 2 jobs while graduating. There have always been busy phases in my life, but overall, everything was always fine. Being busy or being stressed out is not the feeling I mean. The wish to be left alone by the world goes far deeper than that, far beyond challenging phases in our personal life. As I grew up, my dad would tell me how important it is to read the news every day, how important it is to know what's going on in the world. By giving me this advice, he meant well, like parents always do. But whenever I tried to heed his advice, whenever I did read the news, it made me feel horrible. I didn't understand what was wrong with me. Reading the news in the morning ruined my day. Reading the news at night made it difficult to fall asleep. I kept asking myself if that was normal. In this day and age, our phones are flooded with news 24/7, the catastrophic headlines and thumbnails optimized for clicks. I kept asking myself if it was healthy for us to flood our mind with constant reminders of how flawed our world is. I kept asking myself if I really have to force all this negativity upon my mind every day just to be a proper adult. And then I started feeling guilty. Guilty because the people in the news who experience the catastrophes deserve my attention, and I felt very torn. The feeling of wanting to be left alone by the world has nothing to do with denial. It has nothing to do with not wanting to accept reality or be in the know about what's happening. It's not about being ignorant or acting as if it all doesn't concern us. No, quite the opposite actually. It can become a problem for those of us who care a lot. But the question I am putting out there is this. Is it really our duty to non-stop hear and read about grisly details and catastrophes we couldn't have prevented on days when there is too much going on in our mind already? Isn't it understandable that there are days on which we just want to be left alone by the world out there? This feeling might be rooted in the discrepancy between the vast world out there and our own little private world. It's rooted in the wish to protect our own little world from what's out there, our own little world in which everything could be just fine if it wasn't for everything out there. It's not our fault. For about 2 years, the world forced us into our homes, forced us to build our own little world and stay there. Many of us grew fond of it. Many more have always been fond of it. even as the gates of our own little sanctuaries opened towards the wide world again, there wasn't much out there for us but bad news and crises. In our own little world, we might be working hard to make a living. We might be making a considerable effort to live sustainably and conserve our planet's resources. We might be doing everything within our power to do good and take care of our loved ones, just to open a newspaper and learn that the world out there appears to be doing the exact opposite on so many levels. Just to learn that no matter how environmentally conscious we live, our governments are missing yet another climate goal. To learn that no matter how peaceful of a life we live, the next bomb has been dropped on innocent people. This wish has nothing to do with closing our eyes to reality or living in a fantasy world. It has to do with the realization that in moments when we feel as if we are losing faith in humanity, when things are simply beyond our control, there is nowhere else to go and nothing we can do but shut the vast, wide world out of our own little world. The feeling isn't necessarily only about events on a national or global scale. It's about our boss's expectation for us to develop into a new, exciting, customer-facing role at work when we are actually an introvert and have finally started feeling comfortable with where we're at. It's about doing everything to the best of our knowledge and abilities just to be dragged into the chaos of someone else who didn't. It's about opening our mailbox every morning, hoping against hope that it is for once empty, just to find it full of unnecessarily difficult paperwork that could be completed with 2 clicks online. It's about the wish to just be able to work and live and breathe in peace, to almost become invisible to all those who could find us and drag us into something we don't want to be dragged into. My sister coined a term for this that we have been using in our family ever since. All she wants in life is to till her field, a metaphor for the wish to just pursue our day's work in peace, take care of our own little world, and be left alone. The feeling I'm describing is a feeling of deep tiredness. Tiredness of failed efforts, of broken promises, of missed goals, of rules and regulations, of anxiety, doubts and concerns, of getting less and less but at a higher price, of bad news, of overwhelm, of expectations, of too little happening when so much needs to be done. It's a feeling of deep exhaustion and weariness that disappears instantly as we gather around the dinner table with our loved ones, breathe the scent of a quiet forest, or tend to our veggie garden on a summer evening. That disappears instantly as we retreat into the little world that is entirely our own, in which our efforts are enough to make the world okay on a small scale. So, what am I proposing? I wish I had a satisfying answer. What I do want to say is this: if you know the feeling of just wanting the world to leave you be, you are not alone. You are not a failure if on some days you feel that you can't bear the weight of the whole world on your shoulders. You are not a failure if you feel tired and worn out by global politics and international crisis. Not a failure if you just want to do your job without constantly striving for that next promotion. Not a failure if you sometimes just feel like shutting everything out. Especially for the empaths among us, for those of us who feel and care for others, it is so easy to be affected by all the wrong in this world more than does us good. But with all that is going on, with all the challenges we are facing, it is important to remember that we are all part of this larger world, that this world is comprised of our small, peaceful, beautiful worlds. Making our little world okay at a small scale helps make the world okay at a larger scale, even though it might often not look like it. It is perfectly okay to focus our mind and our energy on the things we can change for the better, on the aspects of our lives where we can truly make an impact. And it is also okay to sometimes not want to make an impact at all, to just want to sit by the pond and watch the fish, to just take a walk and reflect on what kind of cake to make for Mom's birthday. There are days when we feel like reading about the upcoming elections. There are days when we might want to try something new in our job. And there are days when we just want to lie in the warm sand by the lake. It's part of being human in this time, in this world. And that's okay. I would like to hear from you. Have you ever experienced the feeling of wanting the world to leave you alone? Let me know in the comments.